are tuned in to your dose of positivity. I am Marlene Motivates, and as I always say, just know it, just breathe it, and be it, and live your best life.
Be encouraged, be inspired, be yourself, you will survive. Just know it, just breathe it, and be it, and live your best life.
Hey, everybody, it's Marlene of Marlene Motivates. Welcome to your dose of positivity. I am your channel for all things positive, inspirational, all of those things, mindset shifting. So if you're new to this channel, hit the subscribe button. And I'd love to have you over here as a part of the Motivators family. So welcome, everybody, those who are watching now live or in the replay. If you could like this and share it out, I definitely appreciate it. So welcome, everybody. Y'all see the topic. Today we're going to be talking about interracial dating and how things were back in the day to how things are modern in today. So let me put this banner up here. This is what we're talking about, international dating, then and now. So let me first start off by giving some of the let's see, where was I going? Next, I'm going to this one. Okay. Trying to rush. I don't want to get ahead of myself. So we're talking about international dating today. And, we all know that international relationship, international. I'm thinking about flying out on a plane. A relationship is between two people of opposite races. Now, the issue can be is that not everybody is on board with this happening, and it could be modern day, it could be within our relatives, it could be friends. There's always going to be some kind of tension when it comes to dating. But I have to first start off this conversation by saying I'm not giving my opinions on what I think people should do, who people should date, none of that. I'm just going to be stating some facts, some things that I actually know from myself, and some research that I have done to spread some awareness, because there's just some things that even in my research I definitely did not know. Because this is a judgment-free zone. I don't judge anybody over here. Everybody is always free. Date who you want. Date who you want. Okay. So let me get into the chat and see who is up in here. Hey, Realist One, how are you doing, bro? Happy Friday. Really appreciate you being here. Thank you so much. If you guys could like and share it out. So let me get into some of this information that I have. So let me start off by asking some of the things that I thought about with this topic, international dating then and now. So what are some challenges when it comes to international dating? So international couples, why do I keep saying international? If I had $5 for every time I say international, interracial couples, they struggle with, even their identities, to conform to society's norms, and also wondering where they belong, because not everywhere that you go as an international couple is going to be accepted. People may often criticize those who are in an interracial relationship. They face criticism from either their own race or other races, or different cultural communities, for not adhering to the traditional expectations. Because for the norm is usually, people will stay within their race and they don't date outside of that. That's the traditional expectation. But just as life has changed, just as there has been awareness, people are just open now to more things. It's not things in black and white. So people are, going outside of, and I don't mean just African American and Caucasian. I mean all races. I'm speaking of all the races of the entire world. So people are getting involved in interracial relationships, and some may scoff at it, some may not agree with it. So whatever is your belief system, I'm just here to give some information. So let me start off by saying this. How was international dating from the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 2000, 2010s, and today? So I wrote down some notes. So in the 1950s, it was actually taboo. You were not allowed to do international dating. Not saying that people didn't sneak around in the 1950s and go on dates and sneak around. It's not that those things didn't happen, but it was not legal. It was taboo. You could not get away with it. Actually, they used to have a lot of people, especially in the South, that there was still lynchings. There still was all kinds of things that happened for those who decided to still do interracial dating. It was taboo. It was just like a no, not allowed at all. So in the 1960s, there's a little bit of change that happened. In 1960, actually, the date was no, I'm stepping ahead of myself. In 1960, interracial marriage was forbidden by law in 31 US states. So if you were interested or you were attracted to somebody of another race, it was forbidden by law. So if you lived in one of those 31 US states back then, it was forbidden. You could have been incarcerated for going through and trying to get married. It was illegal. You just couldn't do it. But some changes started happening within the 60s. So on June the 12th, 1967, Loving Day started, and it was a court case. And it was between Miss Loving, who was a Caucasian woman, and she was the first one by law to be allowed to marry to her African American husband. Okay. So it's called Loving Day, June 12th, 1967. So interracial marriage became legal then. So just because it was legal, it does not mean that it was accepted or tolerated. It's something that happened, but there was a lot of families, there was a lot of communities that were outraged by it. And also during that time, there's a lot of racial tension at that time, where with the segregation in schools. So a lot of things were really changing within the 60s, in the school system, just in the whole climate of the entire world, where things that weren't allowed before now had to change because laws started to become enacted to where, with this case of Loving Day, June 12th, 1967, now they could no longer say that it was against the law, because they would do things like, if people were out on a date together, people would call the police. They would try to, do things like spray water on them. It was a lot. It was very awful back in the day. My parents were married in the 60s, not here, outside of the United States, but in Jamaica. But when they went to New York in the 1970s, they told me about, there still was a lot of racial tension in New York in the 1970s, because both of my parents, of course, being of Black nationality, they weren't very much looked at. And both of my parents were educated at that time. My father was a teacher, my mother was a nurse. So it's not like they were just looking for the bottom of the totem pole jobs. But even with that, them being not a interracial couple, but being just a black couple, there was still tension because of racial tensions that were happening in the 1970s in New York. So that was just with them. So you can't imagine what the ones that were during that time in the 70s we're going through, what we're dealing with, and just dating in general. And my father was saying that, even if you were a couple during that time, especially those, interracial couples, there were still restaurants that would not serve you, um, all of those things. So lots of things was happening at that time that, I'm not justifying it, saying that it was good, saying it was right. It was just what was happening. And even some till this day in certain states, they still don't agree with the interracial dating. Let me see what's going on in the comment section. Hey, Charlene, how are you doing? Welcome. You shared me out. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Yes, greetings to everybody. So let me get back into my notes here. So in the 1980s and the 1990s, in the 90s, it started to be some acceptance or toleration of it because during the time in the 90s, I can say there was starting to be some tolerance. I can say in my area of Florida, it was starting to be more acceptable because just things were different. It was a different climate at that time. I knew of friends that were actually, interracial dating. So I knew how things were. And it was more of an acceptance, or maybe I shouldn't say acceptance, but they tolerated it because they weren't allowed to voice those racial tensions like they used to before. So let's go to this point that I thought was interesting. In 2017, it said that Honolulu was said that 42% of the newlyweds in Honolulu, 42% are interracial couples. So that was one of the highest statistics I found on Google when I was doing my research. 42% of the population in Honolulu is an interracial couple, which I thought was very significant. That's a pretty high statistic when it comes to that interracial dating. Do you all know anybody who is in an interracial relationship, and are they dealing with some struggles? Let me go to my next point right here. I just talked about the challenges of interracial dating, but let me also talk about, some of the benefits. We tend to think about most of the time the cons, but there are pros to interracial dating. And I can say from being on the other side of it, having now some in laws that are of another race, you start to learn things about others' culture. Um, you learn that I never thought that I was a person that had any type of feelings that way until you start saying certain things. But there are certain things that have been programmed inside of us to be like this within your race good, without your with outside of your race bad. So I also had to do some working on myself, so that I didn't start to bring from past generations, past ancestors, and start opening up my mind that it's nothing wrong with it, that it's okay if that's what you want. I'm not telling you all what to do and to think. Always is up to all of you gems what you choose to do in your own personal life. But that's one of the benefits of interracial dating. I was also able to see other cultures, um, visit different countries, see all of that because now that is inside of my own relatives because of my in laws. So that was a good benefit for me of being a part of it, with my in laws and all of those things. So that I think that's a wonderful benefit because a lot of times people will pass judgments and think that they know how it is and all the things that goes on, and it's really not all true. there are some things that is true, and there are a lot of challenges, but we will say to other people that things are racist, right? But who really is a racist people? I found that it's your own race that can be the most racist. Marlene's opinion, I'm not stating from other people, but from what I have been through in my life, I find the most racial tension among my own race, within my own race, and the judgments that you get. Whereas I find acceptance and tolerance from other races. So that's just Marlene's personal opinion. You can take it or you can leave it. Yes, I know lots of interracial couples. That's awesome, Charlene. Nate says, only thing I'm dating for now, from now on, is the buffet table. Yes, blessings to you too, Nate. Let's see. Realist One says, some people get sick at even the thought of dating outside of their race, right? And I was one of those persons because that's what I was always getting from my childhood. You don't do it. It's something you don't do. Like it's like one of those things like good within the race, bad outside, where, everybody is up to their own interpretation, how they feel. But it's I don't feel that way. I've learned certain things, and especially now, my family is very diverse. I have those who are of Caucasian. I have those that are Latina. I have some Indian. You know, things like that. I like that now those things are introduced into my family, so it's not as closed minded as it used to be. All right, Realist One. Realist One says, I like all flavors. Hey, Miss Tracy, how are you doing? Welcome. Realist said, don't mind me. So silly. I am well, my brother Nate. Hey, Dominique LeBlue. Welcome. How are you doing? Happy Friday. And I forgot to say happy new month to all you motivators. Happy new month. Yes, yes, yes. Appreciate all of you all being here. Okay. Now, what are some of the benefits I would also say of interracial dating? I can say, breaking some society norms. According to society, they will say on the TV what is good, what is bad, what you should be doing. But, I'm more open to saying, people think for yourself. And even for myself, I had to learn to stop listening to like judgments of the old folks, from back in the day because of the things that they have been through, right? So I used to hear some things that I would definitely not repeat on a public live stream, but they did say a lot of things that I found it's not true. It's not true. It's just some things that we think. And I will say that within every race, there is hatred. There is the hatred that people have, colorism, hatred of your own race. They have those who hate specific minority groups. So it's a lot of things going on, and you have to make decisions on whether it works for you and your family. I remember that song. I remember that. Yeah, it does, Charlene. I love that now I've learned about different recipes. Like I've been introduced to different types of food. I've learned so much about different cultures' hair, whereas before I only knew about things for my African American hair. And now I've learned some things. So, yeah, it's all of those things. Dominique says, I don't know about interracial dating, but biracial children were lost and unwanted. Hopefully now they have a place in this world. I know that that's a big issue, and I'm thinking about covering that on another day. Dominique, I hope you come back for that one. But I want to come back to Charlene's comment here. It makes the cultures richer. You know, my personal opinion, not those of anybody else but Marlene, I personally feel when you open up yourself to other cultures, you learn things, you definitely will you enhance your not your knowledge, but there's a lot of judgments that you have. I didn't even think I had those judgments until my family became more diverse. And when my family became more diverse, I was like, but they said they did this and they said they did that. And I found, yes, there are some things that are true, but it's just like every race. What I will say is everybody at the end of the day is a human being. We all bleed red. We all urinate yellow, you know. That's the truth about all of that. I've taken care of people in the healthcare field and I've never seen anybody have a different color blood and a different color urine. It's the same. Okay. Yep, the hate definitely is out here. It definitely is. So, it's one of those things that it's in the choices. I always say that there are some times where you can't help who you love, who you fall in love with. And I can't imagine how it was back in the day, like when my mom and my dad were dating, because they got married in 1964. So when they went to New York in the 70s, and they said they would never have wanted to be in the dating scene during that time because it was awful, with the schools recently being segregated, with, like Dominique touched on um, the biracial children. So it was a lot. It was a lot of things going on. Okay, great. I'll be here. Yeah, I've heard stories about issues with biracial kids have to deal with before. Hmm. Yeah, it's all of those things. So that's one of the things that, people really don't want to talk about it because this really is an uncomfortable conversation. But I think, ignoring these things, acting like it's not a difference because it is. There are some that will never, ever, interracial date, and there's some who are open to it. Okay. Let me look at I wrote down something in my notes. Hold on a second, guys. Okay. Yeah. In modern day, the 2020s and onward, in the modern of international, why do I keep saying international? Interracial dating. 18% of people are in an interracial relationship or a marriage in 2023. 18%. So, not a big amount of people are in interracial relationships, but I would say um, 18% of the population in the United States is a pretty good amount. So, there are people now who are more open to international dating, and maybe sometimes the most difficult thing, I would say, from my opinion, is how your relatives treat you. There are some that the relatives just don't accept the relationship. And I will also say that sometimes it has nothing to do with race. And people will think that, oh, they don't accept my relationship because it's an interracial relationship, where the issue could be they're just not a good person. They're just not a good person. And it has nothing to do with the race issue. So that's another thing that we have to be honest too about, that all races have people who don't do the right thing, who are lazy, who are manipulators, who are drama filled, who are jailbirds and have mental illness. So that goes across all races. So I'm not going to classify that in one particular race, but yeah, that there's no goods in every in every race. The benefits looks to be the attention from being. Yeah, that's a really big one, Dominique. I have an opinion about this one too. Now y'all don't come for me, but I see that there are so many people on Instagram and also on YouTube who they make their channels, and they're all, posting everything, and I'm all for it. Go for it. If that's who you love, that's who you love. But the whole thing about it is sometimes I wonder if people get in these relationships just to be on social media because they know that the interracial relationships will get clicks and views. And especially if you have children, that will get more clicks and views. You're so well spoken. It's admirable. Oh, you are too, Dominique. It takes one to know one. Mm-hmm. I think that too. I'm just like, there are some interracial couples and the things that they say, and I wonder sometimes if in the comment section they they make other accounts and type things in the comment section just so that they can go on their live stream or make a video and say I'm being trolled. Hmm. I don't know. Oh, they troll themselves for the come up. Yeah. So that they can get certain sponsorships to get lots of clicks and views. And we know that in our modern day that it's about the clicks and views. And if people think if they can get a click and a view, then they're going to go for it, right? They're going to do what they can. So I'm going to put the link in here if anybody has something to add to this discussion. I think I have one more point. Let's see. Hold on a second, guys. Nope, I don't have any more. That's all I had. I didn't have that much information. I just wanted to come on here for a little bit and talk about it, the benefits, the challenges, how it was dating, and then and now. So I can say from the standpoint of from my age where I am now and to when I was growing up, the things that I've seen, I remember being younger and it was like very uncomfortable, and other people would make it uncomfortable. People would stare at an interracial couple. They would treat them inferior. They would not invite them to social gatherings. They made the wife or the husband or the boyfriend or the girlfriend feel some type of way so that they would break up. They would make things up so that they would no longer stay together because the relatives didn't like it. But I do think now in 2023, I believe more people are more tolerant to the international dating. Definitely. I think it's not the same like it used to be, whereas before it was like not acceptable. Nobody would allow, it was just not allowed. And I can't imagine how it was back in the day when it was illegal. What did they say? 1967? Think that's what I wrote in my notes. 1967 is when that law passed. Where do I have my notes? Yeah, June 2nd, 1967. That's when that's when the law passed. But like we all know that just because a law passed doesn't mean that everybody was on board with it. There were still some who would believe in unaliving couples. There was a lot of like the tension where if they moved into the communities, they would commit arson. They would if they found out that they were married to somebody of another race, that person would lose their job. So it's a lot that was happening. I've only dated black men, but my daughters show interest in other races, and I am open to it as long as as long as they are good men. Absolutely, Dominique. I think that a lot of times people focus on the wrong things. Like I get it, I understand when something is different. When something is different, when you don't really know about other races, you haven't been introduced. Like, how do they? When everything is different, their hair, their cultures, their diet, lots of things, how they react to certain things, what their belief system, all of those things are different, and that's I feel like that's the beauty of um, this world is introducing yourself to other communities and not focusing so much on the color of someone's skin or lack thereof, but more so like what kind of person are they? Are they a good human being? um are they a hard worker? Do they have good relationships with their relatives? Are they a good friend? Like how do they talk? Like what is that sort of background? Let that be the basis of how people get treated, and not based on the color of someone's skin. Because I can say for myself, I've known of people in my own race and they make me feel uncomfortable, and it's not because I dislike my own race, but is I dislike their actions. Yeah. But I do definitely want to do another topic on something else, and that will be coming up on another one of these Fridays, where I do another dating series. Hey Eunice, how are you doing? Happy Friday. Happy new month to you. I hope you're doing well. So that's one of the things that I have found for myself. And I've seen like the dating world is different. Dating is not what it used to be even 10 years ago, because I would say about maybe it's turning around to be like around 15 years ago. There wasn't that much dating apps, right? There wasn't that much dating apps. Everything was basically in person, that you dated people in your general area or within your state. So it was those things. But now with, people dating through, you know, dating apps, even people dating through social media, it's more diversity now. There's more options. And I think with options, just like everything else in life, do your research. And I just wanted to do this topic because I want to talk about generalizations. People make like a blanket statement to say one race is bad and the other is good. No, I believe in every race there is good and bad people. It's more about their character. It's about their actions, and what will they be willing to do for others. Like what's their background, how were they raised, what's their socioeconomic status. All of those things are the things that are important, not this. And we have to think about ourselves and learn to mature. And I say that based on experience, because I'm not going to like sit here on my platform and lie to you. I didn't even know that I had some racial tendencies. And I did because of the things that I used to hear. Oh, you don't do this with that race, or you don't do that, or they do this, or they don't eat this and they don't eat that. And all of those things, some things are stereotypes, some things are lies, some things is gossip. So find out for yourself. Actually, immerse yourself with other cultures. Actually, learn about other people instead of listening to what somebody said. And I always say, just because somebody has had a bad experience with another race, that does not make the whole race terrible. Is sometimes people select a bad person in general to be in a relationship. They dated into the wrong family, or they dated a family that was just not open and accepting of them, and there's nothing that you can do about it. You can't change people. You can't make people accept who you like and the things that you actually want for your own life. So yeah, all those things. Okay, here's a comment from Eunice. Eunice says, I think people should do what is best for them. People like people. They love people for different reasons, as long as you get along and you have the same values. Exactly. I think that that's the most important thing. People completely get this interracial dating all mixed up, all squirreled up, until you surround yourself with the right the right type of person in any culture. Make sure you get to know them, because it's about that instead of what the color of their skin is, what type of person they are. Because I can say in dating my own race, I've encountered some terrible, and I've also encountered some good. And I feel like that is based on every single race. There is going to be good and bad people in every race. You just have to make sure you're putting in the work to research the person that you're dating. Make sure you mesh well with the relatives, because I don't care what nobody says. When you get into a committed relationship with somebody, their relatives become yours. And if you don't get along with the relatives, that's just going to be a forever thing for you, and you're going to be miserable forever. So that's one thing for me personally that's important. I must get along with their relatives. And if I can't get along with their relatives, the relationship can never work, because I don't want that headache, that misery. But that's my own personal view. But we have to do more than just guess, make judgments, think that we know and we don't know. Have you asked questions? Have you been around not just one person? I mean, so many, tons of them. Maybe you're just choosing the wrong type of person. That's what I've said many a times. People say, "Oh, I don't deal with that race because of this." No, maybe you are not get choosing the right person, the right individual. That's Marlene's personal view. Thank you so much for dropping the emojis, Miss Tracy. My three children and my son and my two daughters, they all date outside and inside of their race. I have no problem with it. Their significant others are very kind and nice, and they are treated well. And that, I feel like that's, as long as you have that within your relatives, you have strong relationships. Like, the most important thing to me in interracial dating is that you have families that are respectful of one another, and they don't use things like racial slurs, um, talk down about them. Now, you could talk about a person's actions and what the actions of the person is doing, but not saying because of the color of their skin or because they come from a certain place. I don't get down with that. You have to treat people according to their character, treat people according to what they do and not what they look like. I get sick of hearing things like that. Like, growing up my whole life, that people always would say to me, "Oh, you speak very well for African American." And I'm saying to myself, like, what am I supposed to sound like? I don't know. I was like, this is the way that I talk. And I even have I will say, the most drama that I have has been from my own race. And I'm going to get into that on another conversation that I have over here. We're going to get into that one. Eunice says, I think as long as a person does not hold a grudge about people within their own race thinking they're all the same because they had a bad experience or thinking another race is better. And that's what I grew up with, Eunice. As I was saying earlier, I got a lot of things from older relatives, and they would say things like, because based on their experiences and what they have been through. And I always want to say that to everybody, just because something happened to you and you choose one bad relationship, that doesn't mean all the relationships within that race are bad ones, or all of this race are bad people, or they're evil or wicked or whatever it is. Look at how a person acts. You know, it could be any race. You could be Caucasian, you could be African, you could be Latina, you could be Asian, you could be any race. But what kind of person are they? Are they a good person? Do they have a good personality? Um, you know, all of those things, instead of basing things on the color of someone's skin. So, yeah, that's all I had from here. I don't know if anybody wanted to come up and add something to the discussion before I get out of here. I have about 5 more minutes before my time is up. I got about 5 minutes to share. So if you guys would, anybody wants to hit the link and share a personal opinion, some things that you have heard. What was it like when you were growing up, motivators? Did you have some racial tensions growing up in, the South, basically? For the majority of my life, I saw some really strange things, and like if they found out that that was two people dating or people who are married, there's certain people who wouldn't invite them to parties. They didn't want to go to their weddings. So it's a lot of things that people can be very mean spirited, and they want others to go along with them in that and accept that as that's the way it should be. And I've actually heard that from both sides. I've heard it from two different races on both sides. We're not going to accept it and all of that, and you shouldn't either. And I always say that everybody is free to believe what they want to believe. I'm not over here to spread, my views. I'm just sharing. The beauty of life is the more experiences that you have, the more that you travel, and that's another thing for me as well. When I have gone outside of the United States, I've visited other countries, and you see how other people live, just human beings in general. You can find that the people that I was introduced to and the people that I grew up with, I see it in this culture too. So there are some, if you start really evaluating the lifestyles of everybody, I just some of them, just it just doesn't work for everybody to, cohabitate and to date outside their race, or maybe that's just not your preference. You may just not be interested in it, and there's nothing wrong with it. But I want everybody to know, anybody who is interested in an interracial relationship, or you have that within your relatives, you know, learn more about each other, be open, but also treat people based on their values. How do they act? How do they treat people? Are they kind? Are they loving? All of those things, and not based on the color of their skin. So that's all I have from here for today. A short and sweet one. So thank you guys so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate each and every one of you, motivators, and to all of those who are looking in the dating world to find your love, the person that you want to spend the rest of your life with. Maybe you want to look, maybe take a peek at international. There I go again, interracial dating. How many times did I say this in this live stream for those on the replay? I know y'all are laughing at me. So, everybody, choose for yourself what makes you happy, and that then go from there. What makes you happy? Who do you love? Just go by a person's character, go by their personality, and not by the way that they look. That's personal growth and maturity. Thank you guys so much for joining me today. I really do appreciate each and every one of you. Happy new month. Happy December. I hope that your December is prosperous, amazing, all of those things. And I thank you guys so much for joining me. Oh, I didn't see I had comments, so I'm not going to leave yet. Hey, Marlene, my house and family is so mixed: race, religion, culture, and upbringing. It makes for a very broad mindset. Awesome. Keisha, how are you doing? Welcome in. Great to see you today. I was going to get out of here, but I didn't know I had comments, so I will stay for a little bit. Eunice says, I have some friends that have a very hard time finding someone within their race, and baby decided to expand, and it was nothing wrong with it. They were able to be blessed with a husband. You see that? And I I'm not passing judgments against people because everybody has their preferences, who they like. Some are just naturally attracted to their own race, and some are attracted to others. But I'm just saying, I want to broaden the perspective and the views of everybody. There are some times where how you were raised up, you think that, oh, I have to because this is how I look. This is the only one that is acceptable. So, kind of widen your perspective, you know, and do some investigating. That's a nice way of saying get out there and find out about other cultures. Yeah, all of those things. So, yeah, thank you guys so much for joining me today. I really do uh, appreciate you. Interracial dating. You're funny. You said, how are you doing? Welcome in. I really do appreciate everybody for joining me today. And to all of those who are already, you have some interracial into your relatives. Get to know one another. I have some fun. Don't pass judgments. Get to know other cultures. You may be surprised, maybe if you're a person who is looking to find your significant other, it may not be who you think. It may be in another race. You just never know. Yes, always a pleasure, East. Thank you so much. And thank you to everybody who joined me today. Shout out to my mods. Shout out to all my channel members. And of course, channel members, I will see you guys over at the after show in a few minutes. I'm about to head over there and we're going to get into a topic. I can't wait to talk about that. So thank you guys so much for joining me. And I'll see the members over at the after show. Bye, guys. You guys have a great weekend. Enjoy the rest of your day. And like I always say over here at Marlene Motivates, just know it, just breathe it, and be it, and live your best life. Bye, guys.
Be encouraged, be inspired, be yourself, you will survive. Just know it, just breathe it, and be it, and live your best life.
Hey, Eastad, welcome back to membership. Thank you so much for your membership, Eastad. You know what to do. Check out the community tab and see you at the after show. And to everybody else, like we always say, I made it and you can make it too.
forgive me. I love me. I've been blessed that I have made it through. I'm stronger and worthy. I am enough now. What about you? I forgive me. I love me. I've been blessed that I have made it through. I'm stronger and worthy. I am enough now. What about you? Ooh, oh.